This is the Gary Blair Radio Show, presented by Bud Light. It's for the fans. And by Rudy's Country Store and Barbecue. Visit Rudy's.com to find real Texas barbecue near you. Now, this is the Gary Blair Radio Show.
And hi again, everybody. Welcome out to Rudy's Barbecue. It is the Gary Blair Radio Show with Coach Gary Blair. I'm Steve Miller. Great to have you with us tonight. Appreciate everybody that has braved the weather, the water. I don't know about you, but I think my feet have been wet since about 8, a little after 8 this morning, and they haven't dried out yet. Been some crazy rainfall. We were out at the baseball field earlier today, Coach, and they had over 3 inches of water sitting in the outfield.
Well, it's at the 5:23 news, according to Shell, we've already set a record today. I think over 3.5 has already been measured, and it's coming down just as hard. So it reminds me, while we're watching this thing, we're watching Arkansas and Tennessee on the SEC network, and you know what Arkansas stands for, ARK. We got the ARK. We've got to build it.
And they are next.
We've got to build. It's wet, but I appreciate all the fans that have come out. Gosh, they're loyal, and I appreciate all of them that have come out here to listen to the words, but there will not be excuses. There'll be words and solutions.
And one of those solutions will be in play as the Aggies take on Arkansas. They're playing right now on the SEC network against Tennessee at Tennessee. The Aggies and Arkansas will meet up at Reed Arena this Thursday. 8 o'clock is the start. And so get there early. We've got a bunch of fabulous prizes to give away, including some of those Apple AirPods for your ears, one of those Google Nests. Got all the late night prizes ready and in store for you.
That's Thursday night?
This Thursday night. We're giving it all away.
Well, I love it. It's going to be good. I think it's going to be another great ball game. I think it'll be a high-scoring ball game. I think both teams can put the ball in the basket. It depends on which team can stop the other for putting it in the basket. I think that's what we're looking at because Coach Neighbors, as you know, he likes that 7-second offense. He wants that ball put up within 7 seconds, and they'll worry about defense later. But they're very good at shooting a three, and it's going to be quite a ball game. And you remember last year I started to give him a shirt when he came in called 004 because I wouldn't do that to Mike, though. And he's not listening. Usually he's listening to my radio show, but he's having to play right now on the TV. But 004 was the exact time that we won both of the games last year. And Jordan Nixon hit both of those shots.
Yeah, they like that 5-out offense at Arkansas as well. Just stand around. We're just going to wait for a three-point opportunity.
Well, 3-point, or they drive, they'll backdoor you, and they've got their post player back now, Barham, who's been out for close to 2 months with injury.
Do all the players come back when it's your when you're in town?
It's this reunion tour that we're on. Everybody wants to see old Coach Blair.
One last time.
Everybody's Mississippi State just got their Farley kid back in the last game, and all of a sudden I looked around and I said she wasn't even on the scouting report. And she came back, and the big kid, after they lost their what I consider one of the top 5 freshmen in the league, Carter, in that ball game, and it really looked bad. I'm hoping it's not an ACL, but it sure didn't look good the way she went down. And she'd already blocked 3 or 4 shots in only 25 minutes, and she's an outstanding freshman, and I hope the best for her. And then they had to bring a kid off the bench that blocked 3 more shots, but she was at least 6'4", 6'5". But it was a shot blocking party, and it was on the wrong end for us.
They were also at times having a party driving to the basket.
They play the dribble drive offense, and very similar to what Arkansas runs, very similar to what a lot of teams have that do not have the Aaliyah Boston type of post player. That's sort of the wave of the future of when you cannot have that type of 5 player down low that can score. And Buzz runs a lot of it as well. You are able to play a lot of guards at the same time, but you still got to be able to penetrate, stop dribble penetration, which we didn't yesterday, and guard the kick-out shooters. And we'll talk to Coach Brown later on that because he's going to be our guest later on in the show. And he's going to talk to us about the evolution of the dribble drive offense. Where it started from, is it sort of like back in the day when people started going to the flex offense, or in football you're going to the West Coast offense. So there's always something new coming around that you either got to learn how to defend. For my old timers in here, I remember the wishbone offense when it came aboard in football. So there's always a change, and there's John Gilbert back there. He probably ran the wishbone back in the day. But I'm not sure how nobody really defended that. And you look at some of the college teams that are running variations of it right now. Air Force does a great job of running that in a football game.
Well, you referenced the flex offense in basketball, and what's that been around, like 30 years, it seems? And it's just all derivatives of each other, aren't they?
Well, further than that, I used to call it, I said, we're not going to run the flex because people ran it against me in the 70s back then. That means you do not have as many good people as the other team, and we learned how to switch on it. And we'd stop some of those screens and the easy basket underneath. But we run a little bit of the flex on inbound plays sometimes, just seeing how you're going to guard the screener. But
because you just all you're doing is you're naming plays. It's the maneuvers and the mechanisms and the approach. I mean, is there such thing as a Blair offense?
Hadn't been lately. I'm sorry, but we have a long ways to go. Now, I run a lot of sets, which in the ball game yesterday, we were very efficient on what we were running. We were not efficient on what we were finishing. And our game plan was to go inside early in that game against Mississippi State, knowing that they did not have the size. But at the same time, you got to execute the play. It doesn't matter what you want to do. It's like back in the day when Green Bay ran the power sweep to the left or power to the right. You knew it was coming, but they still executed it. And that's where we are right now. It's all about execution, offensively, defensively. There's nothing wrong with this basketball team. We've got to fix it ourselves by being more efficient.
That's Coach Gary Blair. I'm Steve Miller. We've got Assistant Coach Greg Brown coming up in just a little bit. We're here for the next hour at Rudy's Barbecue here on Harvey Road, talking women's basketball and also watching Arkansas. That's the Aggies' next opponent. They're on TV at Tennessee. Right now, Arkansas has an 11-9 lead. So we'll keep an eye on that. Talking women's basketball. Come on and join us. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Gary Blair Radio Show from Learfield. Basketball and barbecue lovers know the perfect brisket needs the right wood. Rudy smokes all their meats using their delicious signature rubs in 100% oak-fired pits. Get your real Texas barbecue fix today at Rudy's or on the web at rudys.com. We're back on the Gary Blair Radio Show. We're at Rudy's Barbecue here on Harvey Road in College Station. Here until 7 o'clock talking women's basketball. And hope you can come out and join us. Be safe out there, but you can definitely get in here and have yourself a beverage and some dinner and hang out with us. We're also watching women's basketball on the television. The Aggies' next opponents playing on the SEC Network. Arkansas has got a 14-11 lead over Tennessee. The Aggies take on Arkansas this Thursday night, Reed Arena. 8 o'clock is the tip-off. The first 900 fans over at the, all you have to do is walk over to the north entry. We'll get a 12th Man Centennial replica jersey. How about that? Just make your way over by the north entry. You don't have to enter there. Just go over that way. Also, there'll be a free sausage wrap voucher for the first 150 fans. How about that?
I'll be in line for that. That's my favorite thing to eat when I go to Reed Arena. The sausage wrap is excellent. We've
also got a bunch of the prizes. Talked about those a little bit earlier. Here's a few more. There'll be a Raising Cane's gift basket. We've got those Apple AirPods. There's basketball gear, JBL portable speaker, and that Google Nest Mini. Plus, you can also get those shirts for the BTHO breast cancer game. You can either get those at the men's game this Saturday against, I believe they have Missouri. Is that right? I believe at 3 o'clock or so on Saturday. And then you can get those also at the women's game over at the North Entry in preparation for February 13th will be our women's BTHO breast cancer game.
I've got a lot of little nuggets. Here's one on coaching for leadership. To our student athletes, tell me and I'll forget. Show me and I may remember. Involve me and I will care. The student athlete in the world of coaching, it's changing. The leadership, what they're hearing, what they're not hearing, what they're hearing in the classroom, what they're memorizing, what they're doing. It's a different world right now that we're living in. And I'm here today, I'm thinking about the old television show, which I believe is still relevant, Face the Nation. Well, here we are, folks. We're going to face the nation with you tonight. And we might not have all the answers or all the solutions, but I tell you what, you stir up a bunch of Aggies, we'll find a way. We didn't quit in that ball game yesterday. Our kids played hard. We cut it down to 11. We couldn't make the stop after we got it to 11, or we missed a couple of opportunities to either straighten it. But our kids came out fighting. They were a little embarrassed about being down by 18 and shooting a couple air balls or bank it off the backboard without even a rim in the second quarter. But they took it to us. But our goal was to get it down to 10 to start the fourth quarter. We got it to 11, then they hit the basket right before going into the quarter. But our kids came back to the bench, and they were positive because they knew they had done a lot of good things in there. We started the game with a perfect game plan. We just didn't finish it. We ran some good offensive stat. We never quit in the game. But the things that hurt us was the unforced turnovers. Scoring with contact. Okay, they were scoring with contact. We were not scoring. We were either getting our shot blocked or we missed the shot. What we've got to do is realize the physicality of the league. But when a team shoots 57% from the field, 64% from the three, and 78% for the line, you're going to win 99% of your games. But I want to show you a little bit different stat. Missouri is number one in the country. I'm sorry, South Carolina is number one in the country right now. Missouri upset them. And you tell me how this game would end. South Carolina playing the earlier game yesterday. They shoot 35%. They only shoot 23 from the three. They shoot 73%. They have 9 assists and 21 turnovers. And you say, my gosh, they're in trouble. Boston only goes 4 for 12, and their other leading scorer, Cook, goes 4 for 15 for 13 and 11 points. You say, my God, they're going to get upset. They were in control the whole game. Because of what stat? 56 rebounds to 28. 56 rebounds to 28. And so sometimes stats can tell you a lot. Sometimes they're misleading on what you have. But if you're playing defense at the same time, you're missing shots, you've got a few chances for offensive rebounds and putbacks, and particularly with their size. But give Florida a lot of credit. They were down by about 18 to 20. They came right back in the ball game. And so that's what we've got to do, is find that button that we can push. Well, first, we don't get down like we've been getting down in the second and third quarter. That's what we've got to be able to figure out, how to get through those lulls in the ball game. But we're going to find it out. We're going to score more inside. We're going to realize how to stay in a stance for a 20 to 25 second thing. So that's what the dribble drive does to you. Coach Brown will tell you, can you stay in a stance for as much as they're rotating the ball from side to side, and then eventually, bam, here it comes. Drive to the basket, drive for the layup. You either block it or not, or kick out for the three. That's what we've got to do, is being able to figure out how to stay in a stance. We've got to get our post players shooting better at the free throw line. I know it. You know it. Buzz knows it. Sometimes that's just a habit. If I can get my guards there 20 times during the ball game, generally we're going to win the game because our guards are very good free throw shooters. All right, that's my solutions. What questions do you have? Steve, you were there live in person.
I was. And you know, you talked about in that second quarter where you guys are right there. It's a 2-possession game, more or less, is how it had been late in the first and through halfway through the second. But get to that midway point in the second quarter, and it was a struggle to the end of that half. Mississippi State goes 6 for 6 shooting, and A&M goes 0 for 3, and 2 of those shots essentially were within 6 seconds of the half expiring.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, I think you gave me this stat. In the last 5.5 minutes of that quarter, what was the stat that's mind-boggling?
You only took 3 shots, and 2 of those were in the final 6 seconds on Destiny's three-pointer. And Sahara missed, and then Destiny had to kind of mercy shot that thing. And that was the 2 of the 3 shots that you had over 5 minutes.
Well, sometimes you got to play through. We've always said it's a 4-quarter game. You've got to play 40 minutes. Sometimes you got to play 50 or 45. But that's where we are, folks. There's no apologies. Our kids aren't apologizing. Nobody's hurt. We just need to get better. The only thing that's wounded is our pride right now. And our pride is severely wounded. I've got to be able to watch film with them tomorrow at 6 in the morning because we've got class problems on Tuesday, and then we'll work out at 5:30, I think, trying to find solutions. That's all we can do. Hopefully our kids tonight are sitting there watching Arkansas in the lead right now, 21-19, if that's what I'm looking at.
It is, yeah. They've maintained the lead. They've tied and maintained the lead since the early going. They got their final shot here of the first quarter, and they missed that. So they'll go in to the second quarter leading 21-19 at Tennessee.
Steve, you've been with me all 19 years. Where do you see this basketball team compared to others, and how do you see we can fix the problem with the personnel that we have and the tradition that we have?
Well, you know, it's kind of a couple of the questions that I had that they were kind of back to you, but it's at some point you have young ladies who perhaps don't take advantage of the opportunity. Given an opportunity, whether it's to start, whether it is to come in off the bench, even if the score is not in your favor, how do you come in and how do you contribute? How do you, better not only yourself but better the team? And that leads me to, a question. I know you asked me a question, but I'll ask it right to you. But, former A&M linebackers coach Alan Waddell had a famous saying. It's not his saying. He just it's infamous around here. He one time told the team before the game, you play for the name that's on the front of your jersey, and that's Texas A&M. But at what point do you, as a coaching staff, have to ask the players, have you yet played for the name on the back of the jersey?
We've used that quote. We've turned it around every which way. And some of the things, there's only so many quotes. Sometimes you got to go back to a 4-letter word, and that's called work. Throw everything out the window. What about work? Work. Winning and losing will take care of itself. If while you're working, you're improving, that's the whole key. We cannot control the destiny of what the other teams are doing in recruiting or what their team looks like or what size they have. But what we can do is work. And that's what we've got to go back and throw that next word out, excuses. Hey, we live in today's world. Adults make as many excuses as 18 to 22-year-olds. And so what we've got to do is be larger than the adult world at times. Say, my bad. Not just clap, 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 and give some of that false hope, but just make each player accountable. when Jordan gets in that huddle during a free throw or a free throw at the other end, sometimes you got to have a sharp tongue to be able to get the point across and let other people listen. But what you need is that one leader in the huddle. You don't need 4 people talking at once. And sometimes I think that's what they do because they all have something to give back. Their words are very good. But can you picture in those football games last night going into that last drive by the Rams? I bet the quarterback was talking. And that's what you have to do. You've got to realize, or the coach has signaled in the play, he's given that information, and now the linemen and the receivers are processing the information, and then they're fixing to find a way to score to win this game.
Is this a time for your team for a leader to step up?
Yes, and it starts with me. Leadership always starts with the head man. It starts with me. I've got to be a better leader. I've got to be a better teacher before I can be a better coach. And it always starts with the head. It's the same way with Ross running his 18, 19 sports. It's Ross. He's our leader. And he's got to give that information out in that direction. And that's how you run the athletic program. The same way with Sharp, who is running all the A&M things. It's the same way with President Banks' leadership. It starts with a leader. I just named 4 pretty good people, and we're all accountable. So we'll try to figure it out. I'm not telling those 3 people above me to figure it out today, but I better figure it out quicker. They've been winning more decisions and doing things right lately than I have. So I've got to figure it out for myself.
That's Gary Blair. I'm Steve Miller. We're going to have a deeper dive into this team. Assistant coach Greg Brown joins us next. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's the Gary Blair Radio Show from Learfield. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance wants to give you a VIP Aggie basketball fan experience this year. Go to 12thman.com/maroon contest and register. One winner and a guest will receive game tickets, hotel accommodations, autographed memorabilia, and more. Register today at 12thman.com/maroon contest. Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, proud partner of Texas A&M Athletics. We're back at Rudy's Barbecue. It is the Gary Blair Radio Show. Hope you come out and join us. We're here until 7 o'clock tonight talking Aggie women's basketball. We'll be here each and every Monday night through the end of the season, and including the week after the SEC tournament, talking women's basketball with Coach Gary Blair. And I'm Steve Miller, and we are joined now by Assistant Coach Greg Brown, who's going to give us every detail we need to know about the dribble drive, I believe, is what it seems like you may have been summoned here to discuss the history of dribble drive.
I hadn't done a ton of research on it, but I'll have to go off the top of my head with it. But, I mean, there's nothing new in the game, I don't think. You can go back and watch the old black and whites of Bob Cousy and those guys running the weave. I think Chuck Daly said offensive spacing and spacing is offense, and the dribble drive. Vance Wahlberg is the guy that's kind of credited for it. Calipari is probably the one that brought it to the national scene. And he went to Wahlberg because the whole idea was spacing, and he had a guy named Derrick Rose, a pretty daggum good point guard, so he wanted space for him. And that's what it's all trying to do, is to get you to guard bigger gaps. So their whole idea is almost to overload one side, drive it as hard as they can with their ears pinned back down the other with a shooter in the corner. And then you have to rotate. Well, you're not supposed to rotate off the shooter. And if you do, they're going to kick it there. If you stay on that, you're going to give up a basket, so you got to rotate from the backside. And that read is that if they read the backside's coming, it should be a hook pass the other way. So you just have to figure out you have to stay in front of the ball.
A zone read in football.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely.
So if that is the solution, or that is the answer, why dribble drive, but dribble drive with Calipari or what, he's doing it with one and outs with guys that are going to be pros. If that is the case, why wouldn't everybody try the dribble drive offense, whether you had lesser talent or whether you had more talent? But what do you do if the skill set doesn't match the offensive set that you're trying to run?
Well, you see that a lot in high school. You'll see a lot of high school teams want to run the dribble drive, but they don't have the players to shoot the three, because if you can't shoot the three, the dribble, you're just going to pack it inside. There is no dribble drive because we're going to stay in front of you. What makes it work is when you have guys that can drive downhill as well as shoot the three, so it does have to match up. And that's why not everybody can run it. That's why Arkansas and Mississippi State and these teams can do it, is because they're recruiting to it. They're recruiting kids that can get downhill with kids around them that can shoot it.
And in the recruiting aspect of it, if also you tell young athletes that really a lot of dribble drive is being run during the summer programs when you've got more advanced kids that are all playing on one team, and you're able to see the skill set, or they wouldn't be on that summer team. They'd be back playing in their high school team in a little summer league. But if you go and play in the summer league games, you're able to identify who has the skill set to do this offense, or perhaps my offense or Buzz's offense or whatever. That's what we do. 90% of our recruiting is done during the summer.
Do we mistake the dribble drive piece and all of this with street ball?
No, because I think Baylor just won a national championship in the men's game by having defensive guards that could bow up on you and stop you from getting to where Gonzaga wanted to run their perfect offense. I mean, I thought Gonzaga was going to win the game because they had the perfect offense. But defense can take some away by having those guards. Like when he mentioned Bob Cousy over there, if I'm not mistaken, some of my young and old-timers here, I think he wore number 14 for the Boston Celtics, and I used to run home from church to see him play the Fort Wayne Pistons or the Syracuse Nets with Dolph Schayes, Hal Greer for Philadelphia, and all those things. That's the ball I grew up with. I grew up with the Bob Cousy's, and that's how I learned a little bit of the game, not thinking I was going to be a basketball coach, but old-time basketball. Played with fundamentals, because back then they could not do, except Wilt Chamberlain could, they could not do what today's athletes can do. Greg, how do we go forward? We know our strengths, we know our weaknesses. Let's go forward without telling Coach Neighbors everything that we're fixing to do.
I think the first thing is, I was thinking about this on the way over, there's scheme things we have to get better at. Part of our problem right now is that they're trying hard to try hard. If you've ever stood on a tee and you look down the fairway and you got a lake on the left, the one thing you say is, don't hit it in the lake. And it's common sense. And where do you put it at? You put it in the lake. You didn't try to put it in the lake, but there's some reason, there's some block, there's some reason that you do that. So we're talking about don't help off ball side. And there's another time that you think, well, I can clear that lake. I can hook it across it and cut the corner right there. And you're not taking calculated risk. You're doing what you think you can do, not what you should do. So we have to get them out of that. Just keep it simple. Stay within the game plan. They're trying to make too many plays sometimes. And then they're trying to explain why they made that play. Just stick within the system, stick within the plan, and build on those things. And relax a little. Play hard. And you can see it in spurts when we do that. We do a drill called perfect possession. We keep running the shot clock down every time we get a stop. But if they get it to the paint or it's a middle drive or an offensive rebound, we reset the shot clock. They have 2 minutes to get that. They don't get it in 2 minutes, and they get to go at the other end in condition for a little bit while the other group goes. And we've seen that. We pressed. We got them down. They were running the offense with 19 seconds on the shot clock, run it all the way down to 2 seconds to go, and we help off ball side and give up a shot. So for 28 seconds, we played excellent defense. And we've got to get it to 30 seconds on that. And I think that's a long-winded answer to what you're asking right there. We just have to continue to work hard at the simple things and be better at those than we have been.
Describe on-ball defense and help side defense for the people out listening. How can you be – it's hard to be good in both, but with personnel, how can you become between the ears better as a help side defender than if you're not that good as an on-ball defender? Or how can you keep people in front of you without just going for every move? Just keep them in front.
I mean, that's the number one challenge, is to keep them in front. The first thing is where you put your eyes. You can't put your eyes on their eyes. You can't put your eyes anywhere other than in their gut. they can't go anywhere without that. So if you can lock into there, and that's old. The other thing are angles. That's what's hurting us sometimes, are just angles. Just we tell them put our nose on the ball. That way the ball has to go. I can be in front of the ball, but we will at times open our stance. We want to reach and make a big play so we can get a steal. And when you reach, you have a bad angle. Now you're giving up a drive. So and that's what I'm talking about. It's saying the simple thing. Just stay in front, literally, low, wide stance, keep my nose on the ball, hunker down right there. Away from the ball, the other thing is just understanding personnel. Obviously, if a kid drives a ball to the basket, you would think everybody wants to help. And we try to give them some stats saying, hey, look, this kid has driven it a ton, but she's yet to hit a layup. She's going to kick it before she goes. Then you start to overhelp, and that leaves those shots. And we did that a few times. So just sticking to that scouting report, trusting yourself, and then trusting your teammate to be there and help.
Last year, when you looked at some of our tapes from last year, all of a sudden you had a Sierra Johnson that was protecting the paint. You had an Indy who was taking care of the boards offensively or defensively. And then you had a Wilson who was playing both ends of the court that could really fill a gap but still get out and cover a three-point shooter. Now we're expecting other people to fill those roles that hadn't filled those roles before. And all of a sudden, Jordan and Kayla now have gone into those roles that they've got to fill a role that they've never had to do before. How can we make it individually better, and how can we do it collectively better?
I think individually understanding that my role has changed if I'm Jordan or Kayla or Destiny. The second part of that is for Sydney, Patty, some of the other guys that haven't had to be in that role to understand I have to step up. And we saw a little bit of it. We saw Sydney rotate over and block a shot. We saw Patty get a hand on a ball. We saw Kinsey cover down and get a steal. It's there in snapshots. We need a full movie of it. And it has to be and it's an old phrase, but it has to be a mindset to come into that we've got to have somebody to cover the sins when we make those mistakes in there.
Steve, what questions do you have from afar? I know my fans out here, my silver hairs, my no hairs, and my blue hairs, all want answers. Where do you see the answer? Because you know the personnel is good enough. It's the same personnel minus basically 3 starters that played last year, but everybody replaces starters every year. Where can you see we can gain the energy that we're going to need going forward? Because I'm looking at this report here. The race is for 8. You get to 8, you're in the NCAA tournament. If you get to 7 with RPIs like we have or Kentucky has, you can still get there. But you have to get 8 home free. 7, you're in the conversation. 6, probably not going to happen. That means you'd have to win the SEC tournament. So give me your thoughts.
Well, I would wonder if you have, when you have combinations of players in the game versus foul trouble that they get in, which then changes your combinations, how does this team react to that?
Well, we have depth, but we played yesterday. I said Mississippi State is going to play 5 players all in 30. They all would have been playing 35 to 40 minutes, 5 players, unless Carter, the freshman, would have got hurt. And that's what you've got to do in this league. Can you play longer minutes? How many people are going to have 14 healthy people on there, but can the bench come in and keep everything level at the playing field, or can you change starters like we did in the other? I still got her 17 points, but I wanted to change up something to see if Sahara could give us that spark we needed defensively. But sometimes it's better if you're coming off the bench to stay on the bench to give it the spark. The backup quarterback is always the one who the fans want or the parents want because they hadn't made a mistake yet. So sometimes you change up, you're given opportunities, but you cannot get too far behind given opportunities. We might have a change again Thursday night, particularly looking at this game right here of Arkansas. they're dribble driving right into the paint, shooting threes, and doing a very good job in there.
And they're up 37-28. Tennessee went on a stretch where they made only about 1 of 8 shots, and Arkansas made them pay on pretty much every possession they missed a shot on. So they have got that lead. Greg, thank you for joining us. You survived the hot seat. Congratulations. Get yourself whatever you want on the menu. Coach is buying you for that tonight. Appreciate that.
6 o'clock film session in the morning.
6:30. 6:30. You
I'll
can sleep in.
Sleeping in. How about that?
Woo,
all right.
okay.
Assistant Coach Greg Brown, thanks for joining us. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's a Gary Blair Radio Show from Learfield. Not everyone is a morning person yet, but with Costa Vita's new breakfast tacos, everyone will be. Try the bacon, egg, and cheese, or the specialties like the machaca beef and egg, or sweet pork, egg, and cheese. Stop by the drive-thru any day from 7 to 10:30 a.m. Order online or through the Costa Vita app, the website. Become a morning person at Costa Vita. We're back on the Gary Blair Radio Show. We're at Rudy's Barbecue here on Harvey Road, talking Aggie women's basketball until 7 o'clock. And get a programming reminder, the Buzz Williams Show will not air tonight. Those guys are already on the road, headed to Knoxville, I believe. It's where they will play, I believe, Tennessee tomorrow, unless I got that incorrect. Nope, you see a lot of nods. And currently on that same basketball floor is the Aggies' next opponent in Arkansas. And Arkansas has a halftime lead over Tennessee by the score of 41-30. By my count, that is their largest lead of the ball game, and they essentially have led or tied the entire way. Congratulations. They'll be here 8 o'clock on Thursday night.
Well, I think it'll be a close second half. I think Tennessee will realize if you're sagging back and you're playing so much help defense, you're not going to get point blank. Let Horston take it to the elbow. If she misses it, you got 2 giants in there that can rebound.
Wouldn't you expect their size to come out and be a factor?
Well, not if you're trying to get it to the low post, to the 6'6" kid.
Oh, no, I'm talking Tennessee on defense. They would come out and have a little bit of effect instead of just letting it be a free-for-all out there.
Well, you got to catch them first.
Well, that's true.
Mike wants to shoot within the first 7 to 10 seconds of an offensive set.
Ramirez has gotten her share already tonight.
Well, very good shooter. She wears number 23 for a reason. If they don't give that uniform out, you better be a player if you're going to wear number 23.
Well, we've got our media relations director, Brandon Collins, here with us for a few moments. And Brandon's in his second full season with Texas A&M after stints at UTEP and a background at LSU.
Correct.
Legend at LSU.
Legend's a stretch, but yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why LSU? Did you live in Louisiana?
No, I grew up in Katy, so right down the road.
You couldn't get into A&M?
I couldn't
Tell
get
us
into
the
A&M.
truth.
No,
I
couldn't get into A&M. I couldn't get into UT, and so I was like, let me go to LSU. They got a good football program. So I figured I'd have some fun.
Well, that is good. And you've got some good seafood down there.
Oh, yeah.
Bad traffic in that town, too.
Horrible traffic. I-10 is brutal.
But tell us, what's your day-to-day activities? What are you going through now besides arranging my schedule and everything? What do you do daily in your job? And say, what does a softball lady do? What do you do?
Yeah, so like this morning I woke up and had some emails from the production crew for the Arkansas game and the Kentucky game that we'll have on Sunday. Just kind of filling them in on the team because, they have a producer for each game for the TV talent. And like for last game, we had Tamika Catchings and Sam Gore who called our game. And, unfortunately, they can't keep up with all of our games throughout the season. So what we do is they come to shoot around, or if they can't come to shoot around, they talk to Coach on a Zoom to kind of get filled in. Before that, we're exchanging emails, just different storylines that I have that they're like, hey, can you give us some things that might be coming up, some milestones, different things like that. So just communicating with them, giving them all sorts of assets that they may ask for as well. Like we play Arkansas, and Mike Neighbors obviously and Coach Blair have a professional relationship, and so giving them different assets, different stories, and talking about Jordan Nixon's 2 buzzer beaters last year against Arkansas, just things that the TV talent can talk about during the game. Those things aren't. When I tell my parents what I do, I'm like, yeah, I do this and that, and they're like, oh, so the TV people don't just come up with those things? I'm like, no, they have an SID that they talk to and they communicate with so that they can be in tune with the team and be caught up with them as like they're doing different teams and different games throughout the season.
All right, let me ask you this, because I got the person on the right, person on the left. They're both former sports information director, and the new breed. What has changed in the games? There's no more media guides and everything like that Steve always had to take care of. Now, what is the difference in the information? How do you get your information out to all the tech world that we're living in?
Well, I think a big change was just the social media age came through and technology changed. Back when Steve was an SID, I think printed publications were, of the utmost importance, and they still have an importance in this world. But now it's a lot of social media push, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Just trying to get things out on there to our fans and to recruits and different people. It's a great medium to communicate with people, and so I think that's been the biggest change. And Steve might have some things to chime in there too.
No, I would just say you have every game on television now, and that was not the case several years ago. That's just been in the last 4 or 5 years. Actually, since the SEC Network came on, that was a big game changer for distribution of these games. It wasn't always the case.
Where do both of y'all see the growth of this game? Where's women's basketball going with all the television that we're watching now and all the information? Where are we going with women's ball?
Well, I think it was really eye-opening at the NCAA tournament last season because a lot of things came to light. I think it's one of the most important NCAA tournaments we've ever had just because everybody's focus was on it. The NCAA had some inequities that they were being exposed for, with the weight rooms and their gift bags and what have you. And so everybody was looking at it. As I think this season, time goes on, you're seeing stars in this game, all across the country. And the TV deals that are coming, it's just going and going. So I think that the women's game is just exploding and hopefully continues to.
Well, Brandon, we'll see you tomorrow. We see each other every day. Let's go forward. Let's keep finding a way, and you keep spreading the word.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
All right, that's Brandon Collins. He's Gary Blair. We're live from Rudy's Barbecue. It's a Gary Blair Radio Show from Learfield. This copyrighted broadcast is an exclusive presentation of Learfield under the broadcasting rights granted by Texas A&M University. Reuse of this presentation is prohibited without the expressed written consent of Texas A&M University and Learfield. Announcers are provided by Learfield and Texas A&M University. Back at Rudy's Barbecue here on Harvey Road with Coach Gary Blair. The Aggies getting set to take on Arkansas. That'll be this Thursday night at 8 o'clock. You were looking at some of the standings there. Gary, anything else that has got your attention this season? It's been a kind of a crazy year in this league.
Well, Alabama and us were supposed to be a lot better. They've got a junior senior ball club. We've got a lot of junior seniors and graduates, and we were supposed to be better on paper, but paper does not give you a lot right now. I think when you look at people are trying to get to 5 right now. Like Arkansas is 4-3. They're trying to get to 5 so they can see the second part of the league. We're 1-7. Auburn is 1-8. Alabama's 2-7. Kentucky is only 2-6, and they were picked right up there with us, 2nd and 3rd. And Mississippi State just resurrected their success 4, but we're fixing to play Arkansas, who's 4-3, or fixing to be 5-3 or 4-4. Vanderbilt's coming up a week from Thursday. They're 3-5. Kentucky is 2-6. We're going to play them Sunday, and we still have Alabama to play near the end. I'm not going to say anything about who's at the end. That's South Carolina. But let's take care of everything in front of us right now. By the way, I had Frank Martin, the men's team from South Carolina, stayed here the last 2 days because they worked out in our practice gym. I gave him one of my books, and I told him about this book that I'm reading right now. It's called The Gun Lap, and I would recommend it for everybody in this audience. You may think you're too old to run fast, but you're not too old to run well, and that's what we're trying to do right now. But I'd really recommend this book. I'm about halfway through it to read it, and Frank Martin was just so appreciative of A&M's accommodation they gave him for they could stay here, then go to old Mississippi State.
All right, Gary, appreciate it so much. Appreciate everybody for coming out tonight at Rudy's. For our engineer Kevin Minchow and Tony O'Neill back in Jefferson City, I'm Steve Miller. Have a great night. The Gary Blair Radio Show from Learfield.